Here we are, it's 2025, and there is so much changing in the marketing space. Most of this is driven by the access to AI and different ways that things are letting us do our work. But I think there's a lot more change that is coming, and this is probably a good thing if you're watching this as a business owner or a marketer or an agency owner, somebody who's kind of in charge of marketing. Things are going to get better if you're doing good work already. My name is Chris Milton. I run a marketing agency that is focused on creating content and engagement for our clients. And I have a couple of things that I think are going to be coming in terms of just the way that things are laying out. Let's go backwards a little bit and kind of explain where I'm coming from with this. So, our first blogs that we created were in 2009 and 2010. And the idea with that was it was a great way to get content across. Since that time, there have been multiple Google updates, and all of those updates revolve around one thing, and that's changing the way that people find things online, and Google adapting to be able to give better search results that are more accurate for the times. Now, there's always this cat and mouse game with SEO of people trying to game the system and try to rank higher, and that's not necessarily a great thing. I think it's caused there to be a great improvement overall and a constant improvement, but it's led to some pretty ugly stuff out there, and I'm sure you've read some of it because there was a time when keyword stuffing worked, and it meant that it was content that was almost unreadable to someone who is a native English speaker. But it also meant that there was an opportunity to create in a way that would give better indications through data and analytics of what people were actually looking for and what they wanted based on their activities and how they were working or interacting with any sort of site. And this kind of created the foundation of authority and relevance being the two main drivers behind every sort of search algorithm that's out there. So keep in mind, with Google being the biggest market share and the second biggest search engine being YouTube, you get this ecosystem on social media, and most likely it is something that has ranked for what you see. So the two things that I think are going to be happening this year are: one is a different way with a different algorithm that is designed to find more accuracy and actionable items without needing to have the authority quantified with a follower count or traffic count. So, what I mean by that is right now, the authority side of ranking websites is really important to understand how big they are based on how many backlinks they have, how much traffic that they get, what type of positive indicators they are, which means the bigger that the top sites get in your space, the harder it is for a small site to get started because you've got to crack through that noise to show that what you have is real. With the invention of AI and the way that the learning models work, I think there's a different way that is coming that is going to be able to validate the type of information that is on your site more so than just user indications. And this is something that I think would be more similar to when you have a rubric that you're grading against for any sort of essay that you submitted in school. Did you references? Did you have the right footnotes? All of those formatting issues that can count for a few marks, but it really changes the way that somebody gives a student credibility on what they've submitted, I think is going to be something that is more prevalent now with websites moving forward. We've seen this happen a little bit more with social media platforms, particularly with video on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, having a much better recommendation algorithm based on your previous content that you've consumed. And for this to be happening in the background on platforms that are incredibly difficult to find things and find content, even after you've watched them before, because there's not a whole lot that's searchable. Like if you've ever watched something on Instagram and 3 days later, you didn't like it, you didn't share it with anyone, but it became something that popped up in conversation and you go back and try to find it again. If you don't remember the account name or a specific hashtag that was used, it's tough. The whole reason that the search algorithm and that little eyeglass that you're used to looking things up with takes you to an explore page is because they want you to consume more and new content. And I think this is the same type of thing we're going to see with the next wave of SEO and the next wave of the relevance of your website. There are a lot of things that are out there that are saying SEO is dead, it is changing, you're going to have to pay for everything. Google is going to become more like social media in terms of losing the ability to have organic traffic. And while that might be true in certain spaces, I still think there is a really big opportunity and a major opportunity for brands to create assets that work. I've been lucky enough to work on our sites that haven't gotten incredibly penalized by Google updates. And I think it's because we've always taken a concierge approach. And I think that's what's basically doubling down on. So for those of you who may not know the concierge approach, here's the idea. You're staying in a hotel, you're in a new city, you've never been there before, and the person who is the closest thing to a tour guide in terms of pointing you in the right direction is the concierge. Not the hotel front desk, not somebody walking on the street, certainly not the business that you want to go to. It's the person that is paid to really tell guests where to go, what to do, have the right partnerships, have the right information, have the right connections. That's the concierge. They're in the lobby and they're available to make the guest experience better. Now, that sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? That sounds a lot like what Google has always been trying to do. Somebody comes to google.com, they're trying to find the right thing that they need to be able to do, and Google needs to point them in the right direction. Nor does it mean that that concierge or Google is going to be holding their hand through the entire time. That concierge does not come with you to dinner. They don't come with you on the tour. They're pointing you in the right direction and saying, here's what I recommend. That being said, what can you do to take advantage of this? Well, the first part of it is there needs to be the right level of relevance on your website for what people are searching for. And I think it comes down to unbranded traffic. Knowing that you can be the expert in your space and your industry, regardless of your service area or your name or the type of products that you have, is really important, because that will start painting the picture of understanding who you are and what you do and why you're really good at it. The next part of it is you need to have enough content on your site that your brand voice can really be established, because I believe as a marketer and someone who is creative, brand voice is still the most underutilized thing in the marketing space, because brand voice is how you appeal to different demographics. So when you're putting in all of the information of who your best target customers are, and you're putting in their age, if they're married, if they have kids, where they live, their favorite sports teams, their favorite pastimes, you're missing the opportunity to understand that if they like sitcoms, they're probably going to have a really positive response if you've got a dad joke or two in your copy. If they like really a lot of real life TV or documentaries, they're probably going to be really attracted to facts or quotes or statistics that are on your website. And the way that you present that with your brand voice, obviously being more casual and funny for that person who likes sitcoms, or somebody who is really technically writing and presenting things as if it's factual research, is going to appeal to those documentarists. So the idea with brand voice is I think that's going to be something that's going to be more established as we move into the future, but it takes the volume of content for you to show that that's the way that you speak to people. The third thing about that is I think it's really important that people don't give up on their content. When we look at the challenge that's created by bigger websites, they've been rewarded for 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years of consistency of posts, which means a weekly blog post for a site that is 10 years old has over 500 posts. That is a force to be reckoned with if it stayed on topic and it stayed consistent. The rabbit hole that somebody can dive down to really get into that topic just on that one site is incredibly deep. And having a rabbit hole that's deep enough where you've got 20, 30, 40 different pieces of content, in order to catch up, you have to do that by posting multiple things per day. You need to be able to have banks of content that are launched at once. And I think that's going to be the next big way for you as a smaller website to catch up and to get ahead. The way that I think this logically makes sense is to launch article clusters. And in a previous video, I talked about how you should have your social clips and then a roundup video, and then the full length video. And this is kind of the same idea. In another video, I talked about how we used to blog in 2019 with 5 top things that link to deeper dive on that topic, but that each of those bullet points could also turn into a social media post. So in that case, it would be a blog post that's a top 5 that creates 5 automatic social media posts and opens the door for you to create 5 more deeper pieces of content. What I'm thinking now is, as we move forward in 2025, and because you can research faster to write more blog posts and to create more content for your site and to have more FAQs, in that example of having the top 5 posts with 5 social media posts, those 5 deeper dive posts, you should also be writing at the same time and releasing a cluster of those 6 blog posts at once. And that this will not be something that impacts your search scores and your overall ability to rank on Google. This is actually going to be something that is automatic. When you're releasing those 6 posts, you have a cohesive internal linking structure. You have a lot of different forms of content. 1 as a listicle, 5 as a long form, so it gives you long form content. And then the last part of it is it creates the rabbit hole. So within the rabbit hole itself, somebody can now have more pages that they click through, they have more time on site, and all of these core foundation metrics that Google looks at, it gives you the opportunity to just win at once. And so I would say with each of these topics, the 5 social media posts are great. You now have 5 more that you can create for each of the different articles that you've done the long form version of with different specific quotes. Or you have the same idea of different topics, and it could lead to 25 or 30 or 50 different posts that you can have. But because you're releasing it as this cluster, I think it's also going to be something that you can tease and say that you're going to be releasing this at the 1st of the month, the 15th of the month, and actually create more content and anticipation around that information that's there. In the same way that, I love when people count down to things that are really awesome and anticipated, like events or shows that are coming out or new videos. You've seen the premiere feature that we have with YouTube or with different live streams. Are a good thing for your audience to understand that they want to consume what you're creating. And so give it to them a little bit. Create a landing page that says coming soon. Create a landing page that teases blog posts. Be able to have and celebrate what you're creating and what you're actually making. That reporting, I think, is really important, and that level of information that you can provide is going to be worth the squeeze. So those are not necessarily my bold predictions, but things that I think are just logical as ways to look forward in terms of how to create content, how to win with SEO, how to leverage your brand voice. And I would really encourage that you start to take those things into consideration. I don't need you to double down on what I'm saying or feel like this is the only way forward, but I do think this is a way that as a best practice, you can quickly gain authority and start ranking from a content perspective. The technical aspect of SEO, I'm going to leave that to our experts. I have to go ask them questions in terms of what those things are happening. But from a content as well as like a PR perspective, I really think this is the way to go to build in 2025 and to be able to set yourself up for success on all different platforms, with your website being the core and the place that you catch everything so that you can have more success with your business and your online presence can be an asset for your business of what you're building. So I hope this makes sense. I am going to mark it in my calendar for 6 months and 9 months from now to kind of double back and see where we ended up after this video is posted, and to kind of see how things unfold. But these are also things that we're going to try in our business too. Yeah, off we go. Back to